Hello class 9, this is Neha Singh again to introduce you one more topic of your class 9, that is tissue. That includes in the biology of your class 9, chapter number 6, tissue. In our previous chapter we have learnt about the cell. That's every living organism is made up of cell, and depending upon the number of cells, that living organism are being divided into the two categories, unicellular and the multicellular. As we know that the multicellular organism are having only one type of cell, only one in number cell, that is performing each and every function of that living organism. But in multicellular organism there are millions of cells are present which are performing together different functions, different types of cells performing the different kinds of functions. For example, in humans, you can consider, in humans you have respiratory system in which you are having different kinds of cells. Then you have excretory system in which the different kinds of cells are involved. So in multicellular organisms, specialized group of cells occur in specific part of the body to carry out the specific function. And these group of cells which are having the same origin and they are performing a particular function or a specific function, these are known as the tissues. So tissues, they make up the organ when they come together, and when these organs come together they'll form the organ systems. For example, digestive system, your excretory system, your respiratory system. And when these different organ systems join together or they combine, they'll form an organism. They could be different in animals and plants. So let's learn about this. The study of the tissue. When we start studying of the tissue, these studies come under a branch of science which is known as histology. Logy means to study, and the study of tissue, it's known as the histology. Now we have divided our tissues into two types, like the plant tissue and the animal tissue. But why there is need to differentiate them into two categories? As we know that the plants are also a living organism and the animals are living organisms, so they must be having something common, right? The cells. But they are having the different kinds of function, their characteristics are completely different, so that's why we need a different kinds of tissues. Why? Let's learn. As we know that the plants, they do not move, means they are not in locomotion, they cannot do the locomotion, they are stationary, they'll remain at one place. But the animals need the more tissues, the different kinds of tissues, so that they can move from here to there, as we know, in search of food, in search of jobs, in search of home or anything. We need to move from one place to the another. And plants, there's no need to move, they are stationary, so their tissue must be different from the animal tissue, so that they can differentiate in these two processes. Second, most of the tissues in the plant, they are supportive, means they are just providing a structural strength, they are providing a particular structure, and which mostly not flexible at that time, or except the younger branches, right? So they are providing the strength, that's why we need to classify. But in animals there is nothing like that, we need support, and we have the different kinds of tissue for the support and for the movement as well, right? Most of the tissues in the plant cells are dead, because the stronger the things will be, the dead things will be, that will be not having any impact from the outside environment, so that's why they need a less maintenance. But in animals, every living cells is required to perform a specific function, and for the movement, for every little movement going here and there, we need a different kinds of tissues, and for that we need more maintenance process, more energy. So that's why we have the different kinds of tissues. Even some of the plant tissue, we know that the growth is the one of the most important factor that help us in distinguish between the plants and animals. As we know that the plant have the indefinite growth, they keep on growing at some parts, especially on the tips part of their body, tips and the their circumference or the the stem is growing in diameter. But in animals, what is there? There is nothing like that. They have some lifespan of their growth and the increment in their height as well. So after that period of time, the height and the other part stops growing, except some hairs, nails and other parts, right? So except that part, every part of the animals will stop growing at that region, but the development of the different kinds of cells still going on in the body. So that's why we need a different kinds of tissues, because plants needs to grow again and again. From they need to provide more and more leaves, right? But we are not having any leaves, so that's why we need more energy to for the working of our body properly. So that's why we need to classify the tissue into two groups. The first group is the plant tissues and the second group is the animal tissues. So we are going to learn about these two different kinds of tissue in a further classes, or we can say then further videos. Firstly, let's learn about the plant tissue. So plant tissue, they are basically divided into two groups, like the meristematic tissue and the permanent tissue. Means meristematic tissue, we also call them a growing tissue. Why we are calling them growing tissue? Because the meristematic tissue is having the capability of divide, and they divide continuously throughout their life, right? If they are dividing continuously throughout their lives, that means they are growing in number, they are increasing the number in the cells in the plant body. And these tissue are generally present where there is a need for the increment of the height or the diameter or these things. Permanent tissues. Permanent tissue means they are fixed. They are fixed in their function. Every cell actually is fixed in their function. But the group of cells which are having fixed in function, they are not even growing. They lose the ability to grow or to divide or to make the new cells. So they are just stiff at their particular position. They are not moving from there, but they are supporting the things and completing their functions. So they are considered to be permanent. They are having only one function. They are not dividing themselves further. So this is all about the plant tissue. Now this plant tissue, you can see from here also. The meristematic tissue, this is a graph. Plant tissue is divided into the meristematic as well as the permanent tissue. Meristematic tissues, these cells are having the capability of cell division. They continuously divide themselves and making new cells again and again. When these meristematic tissue, they lose the ability, they become mature, they become young, they lose their ability and they are not dividing further, and they'll become permanent in their functions. So at that time they'll become the permanent tissue. The meristematic tissue, based upon their you can say that based upon their location where there could be find, they are further divided into three parts, and these three parts could be, first one is the apical, second one is intercalary meristem, and lateral meristem. We are going to discuss these in our video this also. Permanent tissues, they are being divided into two types, simple and the complex. Simple tissues, simple permanent tissues, they are composed of single type of cells, group of cells, and performing a specific function. But the complex kind of permanent tissue, they are having more than one type of cells, more than one type of group of cells which are performing one function together. Some are making them stiff, some are making them more strength they are providing, and some are providing the proper channel to pass through it. For example, the xylem and the phloem, they are the complex permanent tissues, and parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma, they are known as the simple permanent tissue. So we are going to learn more in detail in our next videos. Till then, thank you so much everyone, and keep learning.